Last Friday we were talking about family life as taught by Islam, and as I promised, this is going to be the last installment in this series, not meaning that the subject is exhausted, but perhaps I thought that the rest can be dealt with as and when occasions arise. But there are certain problems that we do have every time, and I thought that what Payghambar Akram sallallahu alayhi wa sallam has taught us, has guided us, must be conveyed. There are two things which we must differentiate and discriminate one from the other, so as not to fall into mistaken thinking or confused thinking, or what we might call deductions and conclusions which are not correct, because they are based primarily on incorrect argument. As far as culture is concerned, culture is something else. As far as Shariat is concerned, Shariat is something else. The beauty of Islam is that it is not flexible in its articles of faith. No. It is wrong to apply this principle everywhere. Where people stand up and say, Islam is a flexible religion, they do not know what they mean. As far as Usul ad-Din is concerned, there is no flexibility at all. We all know that the Arabs had come to the Prophet in 9th Hijrah. That means just as the last chapter of our Prophet's life was drawing to the close, after all the success, after nearly 99.9% of Arabia having converted to Islam, there were still certain families who came to him and said, can we compromise? And the Prophet asked, compromise on what? He said, we, the influential Jews, are prepared to become Muslims if they were quite influential Jews, very few but very rich and influential, and add to your strength, provided that you agree that one day we pray to our God, all of us, and the other day we pray to your God. Compromise. And the Prophet said, it cannot be accepted even for a moment. Leave aside. First of all, they came with a proposal of 1 year and 1 year, then they came for 1 month and 1 month, finally they came for 1 day and 1 day, and the Prophet said, this cannot be compromised even for a moment. So there is no flexibility there. And there is no flexibility in Sharia, in fiqh, in furu' ad-Din. If namaz is wajib, it is wajib. If roza is wajib, it is wajib. It is something else if a man wants to have a compromise carved out and contrived by himself. Just as we hear these days that the Prophet made fasting wajib because the Arabs were eating raw meat. And nowadays we don't eat raw meat, so there is no need for fasting. Forgetting that the glutton of today has produced heart attack. The glutton of today has produced all sorts of diseases. And if the order of fasting would have only been related to overeating, I think today is the time when we should fast more than 30 days. But that was not intended. Fasting is something else. Right. So there's no compromise on these two things. But in culture, Islam has this beauty. It acts like a cushion and absorbs. I'll give example. You go to China, you might find a mosque which is built like a Chinese building. Inside you go, it is a mosque. Outside, it looks like a Chinese. You go to Japan, it may be Japanese structure. You go to Indonesia, it might be any Far Eastern structure. You come to Arabia, you have minarets and domes. You come to many other places, you find different structure, but it is a mosque. Architecture is a part of culture. And Islam never said that you must build only one pattern of mosque everywhere. Absorbing things which can be absorbed. Islam produced a community throughout the world where culture was also absorbed, as long as that culture did not contradict Sharia. Language. Islam honors every language. And it is really sometimes ridiculous to hear people say, Gujarati is Kuffar's language. English is Kuffar. In that case, even Arabic, before Quran came, was Kuffar's language. And so was Iranian and Persian. If you are arguing on that basis, even Arabic was language of Kuffar. That is not the argument. Language is a gift from God. Speak any language that you like as long as you can express yourself well in that language. Arabic became sacred. Arabic became sanctimonious because it became the language of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It's a subject by itself. We don't want to say that don't learn Arabic, but we just don't want to underestimate any other language. And that is the reason why, apart from the prescribed ibadah, which is wajib, where there is a possibility of mistranslations and misinterpretation, and where there was a need of total unity in Islamic world, everywhere else, any other language in worship is allowed, except namaz wajib. And today, we remember Imam Hussein in Gujarati, in Kutchi, in Kiswahili, in Urdu, in every language. It's a language. And Imam Hussein alayhi salam perhaps is the one Imam who has got so much of homage and tribute paid in nearly every language which exists on earth. And he accepts it. People go to ziyarah. I sometimes tell them that if you cannot read in Arabic, please read the ziyarat in English. Even if the language is English, Imam will accept it, because that is how Islam absorbed it. And because this culture was adopted and accepted by Islam, that is the reason why it spread like wildfire everywhere. When people found that it has got sets of law, it has got set of laws, it has got fundamentals, but it has got also the capability of absorbing the culture, people found it easy to accept it. This is one of the essential parts of history of conversion which people should study. When this is understood, Islam accepted some of your cultures, but that does not mean it is religion. For example, Islam accepted it that normally a boy will propose, send a proposal, just like as we have in our community. If somebody wants to get his son married, his father will talk to an elder in the community, that elder will go to the father of the daughter and convey the message. After some time he will go back, bring the answer and say whatever is the answer. Islam said fair. But that does not mean this is Islamic religion, because as I said last time, Islam allows for the girl to propose also. Just as Janab Khadija proposed. Second thing is that it is in our culture that we have semi or sometimes full arranged marriages. Islam is against arranged marriage, totally against. There cannot be any arranged marriage according to Islamic Sharia, not at all. There cannot be any marriage when the children are in the cradle. when two parents join and say, "Ah, chokri tamara mate chhe." It cannot be, because it will depend upon when they grow up and then they decide. There cannot be bar lagna or godiya lagna in Islam. There is no such thing. But culturally, if you accept it, Islam does not say anything, because Islam will see on the day of marriage whether the girl has accepted it or not. That's all. But there is no such thing as arranged marriages. There has got to be a consent by the daughter. And whether she is marrying for the first time, that means she is a virgin, or she is a divorcee, or she is a widow. In all three cases, her will is final, and no one can stop her from getting married to a person she wants to marry, provided that the partner is a Muslim. So, in our fiqh, all the mujtahideen, from Shaheed Thani up to Ayatollah Al-Khoui, they have accepted this as a basis, that one day the Prophet was sitting and a girl entered. A girl of about 18 years of age entered with her hijab. And he said, "Ya Rasulullah, my father wants me to get married to my cousin whom I don't like. But he is forcing me to marry him. What do you say about it?" And the Prophet said, "Can you not find a way whereby you may start liking your cousin, at the same time agree with your father?" That was the first step. She said, "Ya Rasulullah, there is no possibility. I hate that boy, and I cannot get married to him." Then the Prophet said, "My daughter, you will marry the person you like, and there is no question of obedience to your father in this particular connection." And she stood up and said, "Ya Rasulullah, now let me be very honest with you. I'm going to get married to my cousin. I love him, I like him. But I wanted to hear from your mouth, what is the dictate of Islam about a girl getting married? What does Islam say?" And she went to the whole city and said, "I have heard today the Prophet say that the girl has a right to marry he who she chooses." This is the basis and fundamental on which fatwa is there of Ayatollah Al-Khoui also, that the daughter may ask her father, ahwat istihbabi, but not ahwat wujubi. If he does not agree and the girl wants to get married there, she will get married. That is one. This is the reason why we, when we are called upon for nikah, we say we want to come to your house for iqrar. Many people think that perhaps Mullah wants to come for an extra cup of tea. And they do ask very innocently, "What is iqrar?" I said, if you are the father of daughter, then we have got to come to your house and ask your daughter, has she agreed voluntarily without pressure to this nikah or not? If she has, then we will read. If she has not, there cannot be any nikah. This is the meaning of iqrar, or this is the meaning of wikala. That we come to your house, if you belong to the daughter side, to seek that permission from the girl, and then we trust each other. Otherwise, the person who comes can demand that I would like to see that the girl herself is sitting, although in hijab, there before me, and she says yes. But we trust each other. We know that inshallah bride's mother will not say yes. We trust each other, but otherwise it has got to be that way. The question is put very honestly and very frankly in very clear words. Do you allow me, who I am so and so, that I read your nikah with so and so? And this is going to be the agreed mahar. Of course, now culturally, she is told, don't say yes, huh? Don't say yes at the first question. Let the fellow work hard. See? Well, that is our culture. But when Fatima Zahra salamullah alayha was asked, because when Imam Ali alayhi salam came to the Prophet and said, Ya Rasulullah, of course there is a long story to it, but we just make it as brief as possible, that he said, Ya Rasulullah, I have come to propose upon Fatima Zahra salamullah alayha, and you take any book of history and see what the Prophet answered. He said, Ya Ali, I will ask Fatima, and it is for Fatima to answer. He came to the house and he said, Ya Fatima, today Ali ibn Abi Talib came and proposed. And what do you say? And this is in history, that she immediately, before this there had been 3 proposals. And in every proposal her answer was, Father, I don't want to marry. No, I don't want to marry him. This is from general Muslim history, that there are 3 proposals before this. All 3 she declined. When he said, Fatima, Ali has proposed, she just bowed down and made no answer. And when she made no answer, the Prophet stood up and said, Allahu Akbar, sukutuha iqraruha. Her silence means her consent. This is the meaning, that when there is a girl who cannot say, because of that feeling of being ashamed to say yes, the father says sukutuha iqraruha. But in our case, sukutuha can be inkaruha. So we have to wait. We have to wait. And after some time we repeat the question. Do you? But she has been told to say nothing. So we have got to repeat it for the 3rd time and say, do you allow? And then she said, Bismillah. When she says Bismillah, we say Mubarak. That means now we know for certain that her consent has been obtained. In Iran and in Iraq, some ulama get a lot of problem. They have got to ask 6, 7 times, and the girl won't say yes or no. So then they finally say, all right, you take this tasbih in your hand, and if you return it back, I will consider that you say yes. So then, of course, by gesture, she says yes. And we are laughing now. We are thinking that this may be an exercise which has got no meaning. But I, having worked in this community for some time, I know of at least 2 cases where right at the time of Wikalat I was told, Mullah, this marriage is happening under pressure, and I did not give my acceptance at the time of engagement. And we had to call off nikah. We had to call off nikah. Yes. Therefore, once the girl having said yes, no one is alimul ghaib. No one can be blamed. Either she must exercise her right and say no, if she has been forced. But once having said yes, later in life, just as we saw 2 days back on TV, that some Muslim girl wants to annul her marriage because she believes that it is pre-arranged marriage. After having given birth to 3 children, if she says, I have been forced, this is nothing but tomfoolery. She has a right to say no immediately. But there can't be 3 conceptions and 3 births and then fool the world to say that I want to get marriage annulled because it went against my wishes. But this is helping propaganda against Islam in the name of freedom. So culture is something else. Now, having come to that, during the marriage, Shariat has not told us that don't buy particular type of furniture or don't buy particular type of clothes or ornaments. It is all dependent upon how your culture dictates. Their Sharia has not told you. In mahar also, mahar, because it is being translated as dowry, therefore people think dowry, or in some parts of India it is being translated as bride price. It is not a bride price, because in fiqh, take this point for those students of fiqh, for those who are studying Islam, take this point, that aqd, nikah, is not in babul muamalat. No, no. There is a book of ibadat, there is a book of muamalat, transactions. But aqd and nikah is not in muamalat. It is not a transaction. It is a contract. It is in aqd. It is a chapter altogether different. It's not business. It's not muamalat. It's not ta'amul. It is not ibadah. It is contract. It is babul aqd. And therefore, it's a chapter altogether different, where it is called a contract, where it has got to be concluded by bilateral agreement. So mahar is a token, not a prize. You are not buying anything, it's a token. When we were in Kenya, I remember, if we wanted to buy and transact some instrument, we used to give 40 shillings as revenue stamp. Token, we might have concluded a transaction worth, say, 1 million shillings. But the government wants us a token of 40 shillings. What is it? Revenue stamp. It's a token. When it has been put onto that instrument and stamped, it means concluded and delivered. It has got no relation with the prize. The bride has no prize. It's a human being who has come to your house. She's going to be the partner and also the mother of your children. Therefore, there is no price set on her head. But this is a token for the contract in which you are entering. And the Prophet says, our people are gradually becoming very pious. You see, this is the problem with us, that we have extremities. When it comes to fork out some money, we become very pious. So people come and say, Mullah Sahib, mahar, ek ayatul kursi. Are? You remember ayatul kursi for mahar because they don't want to pay money. One Quran, 10 salawat. The Prophet said, nothing of that, I know it better. Pay something of monetary value. It is wajib in mahar, although mahar itself is sunnah. That mahar must be something of substance. It must have monetary value. And this is where, coupled with it, you can give 10 salawat or one Quran Majid or whatever. But it's not so easy that you say one salawat. No. You've got to give something which has got monetary value. And that mahar is a token which becomes a liability. It has got to be paid. It's not only to say that Qiyamat ko milenge. No. It has got to be paid. Either immediately if the condition is late, or if the condition has not been laid, it can be paid at any time. But the wife has a right to say that I shall not allow you to come near me unless you pay my mahar. And if that is the condition set, the mahar must be paid. This is what mahar was. How much should it be? Quran says, give the treasure if you like. But here people say, we will give a mahar of Bibi Fatima. The mahar of Bibi Fatima was 500 shillings. Today, it can be even perhaps, by the Tanzanian standard, perhaps it could be even less than £1. By Kenyan standard, perhaps it could be anything else. That is not the meaning of it. The meaning of it is that compatible with the living standard and the cost of living, Fatima Zahra, we must pay mahar. Don't try to cheat ourselves. And that should be the mahar which must be paid if on demand. It is not in any way a guarantee against divorce. People are trying to use it as a guarantee against divorce. It is not anything against divorce. It is not meant for the maintenance. if the divorce occurs. It has got nothing to do with it. It is nothing but a token. If this is understood, so now 2 or 3 more points, and then I would like to finish it. First, just as you enter into matrimony, the problem begins. Man believes that Sharia has told that rijalu an qawwamuna ala nisa, that men are the supervisors over women. Therefore, we must try to suppress them as much as we can. And this suppression has brought problems today, that we are told that the times have changed and therefore the girls would like to remain independent. I say that Islam gave you that independence which we as men have not been able to maintain. Either we gave you so much freedom that you went out of control, or we pressed you so much that we did not allow even your talents and your abilities to flourish. A very serious subject I'm talking upon, but I'm talking very openly. If you allow any person, whether a boy or a girl, to go beyond his limit and her limit, then you can expect the worst of problems. As it is said, when freedom is granted to an extent unacceptable, it becomes tughyan. And this is flood, which is, the water has reached our head and is going beyond. We allowed ourselves. The wives are allowed to do whatever they like. The girls are not told what to do. The boys are not told. And this is the problem that we are facing and we are going to face. Islam said that there has got to be a limit. For example, when you enter the house and you have begun your life as husband, is it not your duty to enter the house with salamun alaykum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh? Very simple thing, small thing. But if a husband enters his household, salamun alaykum, or if the wife, as she sees the husband, says salamun alaykum, or as the children enter the house after having come from school or from work, anyone who enters says salamun alaykum ya ahl al-bayt, salam upon you, O people in the house. The whole atmosphere changes. It's an atmosphere of peace. But the husband is entering into the house like a malakul maut. He doesn't want to talk to his wife, doesn't want to talk to his children. The children are trying to run away and hide themselves under the sofa sets. You see, if that is the position where the husbands don't even want to talk, don't even want to communicate, don't even want to have a small talk with the wife because he or she is tired, what can you expect? After all, have you come to live with a wall or with a human being? You have come to live with a human being, and she expects some conversation. This is something very small, but if you read even the latest papers on the psychology of household, you will find these simple factors have been brought up by experts again and again and again. Read the latest issue of Digest, and you will find that this has been the same thing. The simple facts of life, talk at home, talk. Talk with your son, talk with your daughter, and talk with your wife. Have some habit of small talk. You can't talk philosophy with your wife. She will drive you out. But there are so many things in the household which you can talk. We don't know. That is one. Second thing, admire. Say one day that this food has been well cooked. MashaAllah. Say. We take it for granted. And it is a fact of life that the wife in first days, as she's a newcomer to the family, expects you will say it today. You will say it tomorrow. You will say it after 2 days. But as you never say, she forgets about it. she resigns to the fact that I will never be appreciated here. But if one can say, and I don't say this for husband and wife alone, even if children can form a habit of saying, "Mother, this dish today has been really well cooked," that gives a sort of an impetus. And it's a small thing. And I gave an example and I said this, and I can't say more than this on Mimbar, but I can say this much, that can one man just look at his wife, regard her and say, "You really look beautiful in this particular sari"? He came ke bhai. Things which seem to be quite simple. Work hard to save your family. So that what I said was not mere rhetoric when I said that as we grow up in our household and as our family life becomes older and older, it becomes sweeter and sweeter. It's not, marriage life never becomes stale unless we allow it to stagnate and become stale. Otherwise, it is a life which becomes sweeter and sweeter as it grows ahead, because Allah rewards you with children, with grandchildren and grandchildren. And one day you sit with your wife and look at the garden of your family as it has grown around you and say, "Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen." That is how we view life positively. So talk to her, admire her, and go out sometimes to meet the families with her. Don't act like those. "Hello, dear. She's at home. He's in the office. Yes. I'll be late tonight." What is it? Extra work. Extra work with whom? With the secretary. When it comes to going out in halal places, haram, take your family together. And what we do is, when it comes to going out, we go out in haram way, and then we say that the wife is a useless partner. She's just meant for the house. Islam allowed us many things. We strangled a woman because we are still, and forgive me for this, under Hindu culture. And that Hindu culture has killed us. And we attribute all the blames and accusations to Islam while we are doing it under that culture, which culture was a culture of kufr and had nothing to do with Islam. In Islam, a woman in her menses is pak. She isn't allowed to pray, that's all. And the prayers have been made, remission has been given. She hasn't been told, "Don't come near Allah." She has been told that because in these days you have got psychological disturbances in yourself, physical changes in yourself, therefore I forgive you and I give you an option that you may not have the trouble of namaz. But Imam Ridha salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi, that when has go is her period, in the time of namaz, as her habit may be, she must sit on the musalla with wudu and pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by dua, by tasbih, everything, every dua she can read, except the namaz wajib or any namaz sunnah, which is exemption. So it doesn't mean that she has been asked to go. She has been exempted out of mercy. She is pak otherwise. If she cooks for us, it is pak. That's one. And finally, it is Hindu culture where the mother-in-law would like to take revenge from this daughter-in-law because she, when she was somebody's daughter-in-law, had the same hardship. It's a fact. She remembers how she was bullied by her mother-in-law and she could not do anything, helpless. Then, now she takes the revenge on the new one who has come, and this poor girl has to undergo all the problems for no sins committed. It is a fact that all daughters-in-law are not the same. All mothers-in-law are not the same. I know this. There are mothers-in-law who are really gems, who are mothers to their own daughters and also daughter-in-law. I don't generalize, but where you see that the mother-in-law is trying to be cruel and rude and trying to trample upon the right of the daughter-in-law, it is a Hindu culture. And in that, the son has got to be cautious to give all the love and confidence to the wife and very peacefully also ameliorate the situation with the mother. But if it cannot be controlled, Islam says provide an independent accommodation for the wife. Wajib. And we thought that no. You go, my mother gave me birth. I say, there's no doubt that your mother gave you birth. But there is wujub. And if you refer to the books of fiqh, you'll find that the maintenance, provision is wajib in respect of wife first, father and mother next. You can take Kitab Minhajus Salihin, you can take any book of fiqh and see that. Wife first. And we say, it is wajib to provide a separate accommodation, even if it means one room, where you will live with her alone. But we don't want this. I don't preach this. I want to see that, inshallah, children will live with the parents for as long as the parents need them. I want to see that the parents live to see the garden grow under their shade. But the parents have got to change, not to interfere unduly in the lifestyle of the children, unless they see that some sharia has been contradicted, where they will draw the attention and say, this is not right. But not for other things, where small petty things, which if I go on recounting will take 2-3 hours more, because I know what happens. If you ask, suit you, मैं कीधु के बाजी रांझे तो बाजी ने बोले मोगो रांझो. But if you said baji and she just went and cooked mogo, for that reason we are fighting. हमेशा आदि ने आदि चाले छे. Well, if you really want to see someone with whom you don't agree, you will always find him ado ne ado. It's very simple. If you don't agree with someone, everything of his is ado. But these are the things which have come into society after having come to live in 20th century and claiming to be modern. What we have forgotten is that Islam is always conscious of one thing. It will change when the need changes. But as long as the human need is simple, it will not change. And this is my final point. It will change when the need changes. And it is the claim of Islam that the need, spiritual need of human beings have not changed yet. And will never change. Remember, the cloth was a hide or a skin millions of years ago. It became simple cloth. From that it became wool and it became whatever today. But it is cloth meant for protecting us from the vagaries of weather. That is it. Whether it is skin, hide, or a beautiful woolen piece. Food. They used to eat uncooked food. They used to eat vegetables. They used to hunt, eat nuts. From there we came to highly sophisticated diet today. It is from the same source, cooked and eaten. But it is the same thing for filling the tummy. The houses, they lived in the caves. We came to live in modern buildings. But if you look at it, even a beautifully furnished room is a sort of a cave. We live in it. We like it. But what is it for? It is for the same thing, to rest, to be with the family, to eat, and to have your own private life. Purpose is same. Toilets. If you come with me in Kutch and Kathiawar, I will take you to the khetar, in the farm, where the whole farm is your toilet. You can go and relieve yourself anywhere. And in earlier days in East Africa, as I remember it, there used to be pits. And the pits, when they were full, another pit was dug. That is toilet, right? In some parts of Kenya, there used to be buckets, even in India. You relieve yourself in the bucket, the mater comes and collects the bucket. Second day, you have a new bucket, fresh. Is there anything else? Now we have sophisticated Eastern or Western marble stones, white, shining toilet. What is it for? Is there something new there? At times we feel like not even doing anything there. So clean. But the purpose is the same. So the need has not changed. People say, Zamana badal gaya hai, times have changed. Times have not changed. Because the need is the same, the modes have changed. They used to walk, and then they used to sit on the camel back, then they used to sit on the mules. Now we sit on Cadillac, and we drive and we go wherever we want to go. The modes of transportation have changed, but the purpose is transportation from one place to another. So it's all the same. The need is same. If we understand this, inshallah ta'ala, tell me now, you may have a beautifully furnished house. And this is a fact. I'm giving you instances without naming. From lifestyle of our people. Beautifully. Furniture. The furniture from India, furniture from I don't know where, beautiful. And video and stereo and whatever, everything is there. Freshly married. Even video tape of the marriage is there also. Recently taken. Everything is there. The wardrobe is full of clothes for both man and woman. But the husband is not happy because the wife is not cooperative. Or the wife is all day crying because the husband is not coming at home 12 o'clock midnight, 2 o'clock midnight, after midnight. Ask the husband, where have you been? Don't ask me. What will she do with that furniture? And what will she do with the wardrobe? So the need is of cooperation, not of furniture. The furniture was simplest in our forefathers' time. Yet there was life and there was Jannah on earth at home. Today it is Jahannam at home with all the furniture that we have got at our disposal. Is it not the duty of the husband to be at home on time unless it is absolutely necessary? Jamaat meeting. Can't be every day, otherwise Raza will have to resign. But when we go home, every time we go home, the wife asks, where have you been? Jamaat meeting. And the wife does not have the courage to ask the president of the Jamaat whether there was a meeting or not. Huh? Jamaat meeting, or union meeting, or scout meeting, or meeting. Not coming at home in. Every day there is a meeting, and the husband is not at home. The wife has waited and waited and waited till she switches off the light and sleeps. This is the dhulm. Dhulm, for which menfolk need to be told that there has got to be a limitation to it. Where the Prophet said, we laughed. The Prophet said, after namaz-e-isha, after you have prayed 2 rakat, which is watira, the nafila, that is after it, then keep your mouth shut except for tasbih or for deen, and go to sleep as soon as possible. Because after that, if you keep awake for things which are not in deen, malaika talk to each other and say, the time has come for this man to sleep. We gave him full day. He worked, he earned, he talked. He should sleep so that early in the morning he will rise for salat. At least he should go to his bed to do his duty towards his family. No. So it's not haram. But if you ask the ulama, they will tell you it is makruh to indulge in worldly affairs after namaz-e-isha. Sit home and be with your wife and children. Unless it is absolutely necessary. It is a majlis or it is namaz or something like that. We have forgotten. And the result is what it is. And I am drawing the attention that if we do not change, we are going to have problems, and the problems emanate from such things which really sometimes create unnecessary provocations and unnecessary problems. May Allah guide us. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.